All right, it's 12:30, so I'm going to go ahead and start the session. So good afternoon. Welcome to the afternoon sessions of the Northwest Ohio Safety and Health Day. My name's Angie Garner, and on behalf of the entire Safety and Health Day Committee, we appreciate your attendance today. Since 1991, Northwest Ohio Safety and Health Day has been providing free educational safety and health programs for area employers and employees. We appreciate the support of vendor sponsors over the years that allow this free program to continue, and for the employers whose employees are made available to participate on the committee. We also thank those employers that have allowed the participants to join us today in order to continue their education. We would like to recognize the Safety Council of Northwest Ohio, which is a nonprofit organization that has been serving Northwest Ohio since 1960. The mission of the Safety Council with its network of members is to enhance the quality of life by providing education, programs, and services that improve safety, health, and environment within our community. The Safety Council offers a wide variety of safety trainings and services to support its mission. The session you are attending is on Too Tough to Talk and is presented by Greg Burkhart. A little about Greg Burkhart. Greg is currently the Director of Safety and Training with the Associated General Contractors of Northwest Ohio, as well as Ohio and Michigan NECA. His love for safety started 40 years ago when he started as a volunteer in the fire service. In 1989, he became a full-time paramedic firefighter, retiring from the fire service in 2014. Greg has always had a passion for helping others. In 2018, while attending an AGC of America Safety Conference, he had the opportunity to listen to Cal Byer, Vice President of Workforce Risk and Worker Wellbeing for CSDZ, a nationally known speaker, discuss suicide prevention in construction. Greg's passion for helping others made him realize that he needs to bring this message back to Toledo to educate union construction in Northwest Ohio. So with that, I will ask that everyone will put their computers on mute if not already done so, and turn off your video. If you have questions, you can simply type them into the chat and they will be answered at the end of the presentation in the last 10 minutes. Please keep all chat to the topic and presentation and respect the speaker. And now I'd like to welcome Greg Burkhart.
Thanks, Angie. Thanks for the wonderful introduction. I know I wrote it, but still, thank you very much. It is truly an honor and a pleasure to talk once again about Too Tough to Talk, and also to help out the Safety Council in Northwest Ohio with this. This is a very important topic. More and more people need to talk about this. More and more people need to understand that this is I'm not going to say an epidemic or a pandemic, but this is truly a situation that needs to be addressed, not only in union construction, but also in construction itself, as the numbers that I show you here quickly will dictate. It is a national problem. It's an international problem, actually. There's a group in Australia. It's called Mates in Construction, and they identified this a long time ago, 10, 12, 15 years ago. They've been working on this for that long to minimize suicide in construction in their country also. So this truly is a situation that needs to be addressed. Hang on a second here. I'm going to have to get my PowerPoint together. Hopefully I can share this. Angie, let me know if this comes up the right way. Are we seeing Too Tough to Talk up there?
I sure can.
Okay, and that's all you see is just Too Tough to Talk? You don't see me, I hope?
I see you in the corner, but I see your presentation up.
Okay. All right, so Too Tough to Talk, what's that all about, and where did all that come from? It is actually a when I came back from Denver, I like my intro said, we talked about this in Denver, had the opportunity to sit down with Cal and understand that this is a huge problem in the construction industry. Cal, and I'll talk about him later on in the end, but he is nationally known, internationally known for helping at all kinds of construction sites. He actually worked 2001. He was actually at Ground Zero when the towers collapsed, helping workers deal with the stress of being there. And what he found out, and he talks about this all the time, is what he found out was these guys, these construction workers were working side by side with these firefighters, trying to search for the firefighters and the remains of other individuals that had died in the collapse of the Twin Towers. And what he realized at that time was that construction workers did not have any help, any mental first aid, if you will, on that pile. And that's exactly what he said, on the pile. The firefighters and police officers, first responders and all that, after a bad day, after a day working at that, they'd go and talk to somebody. And the construction workers, they just left because they didn't have anybody to talk to. So we realized then that there was a problem. But as the numbers dictate here, I'll show you that he finally realized that even in the construction industry, this was a terrible thing, that we didn't have the resources available to help the construction workers. So back in 2018, I did bring the message back to Toledo regarding suicide prevention in construction. And I talked about it at one of our monthly safety meetings that we have here at the AGC. And I was surprised at the reception I got. There were several of the other safety people that said, hey, I know there's a problem here because I just had an individual die by suicide, last week, last month, last year, whatever the case was. And it didn't take long to get a subcommittee going, and we had about 12 people join this subcommittee to talk about what we can do here in Northwest Ohio. And I'm going to talk about the union construction side, but like I said, this is not just union, this is all of construction. So we put together this little task force, if you will, and tried to decide what we were going to do and how we were going to do it, and realized that we needed to reach out with educational opportunities. But we formed the committee. We called it Too Tough to Talk because, well, that's what construction workers are. They're too tough to talk about any problems that they may have. So we decided on the name. It was kind of a funny way we came about it. One of the guys says, hey, well, these guys are tough. How can we make it, tough to talk about, or too tough, or let's talk about something tough, or something to that effect. And one of the guys typed in, talk to me tough, I think it was. And it ended up being a porn site, and his company right away, within like 5 minutes, he got a phone call from the IT guy and his boss and said, what are you doing? What are you looking at these sites for? He was so embarrassed about the whole thing. So it started off kind of on a funny note, but here we are today with Too Tough to Talk, which I think is a perfect, and we've had several people say it is a perfect name for what our mission is here. So the issue here is suicide prevention in construction. With statisticians, how they need to compare notes, compare numbers and things like that. What we found out that the profession of construction had the highest suicide rate with 52 deaths out of 100,000 professionals. And crunching it down, others, architects and engineers, they have 17.6 deaths per 100,000 professionals. 52 per 100,000 is over 200% higher than the average profession. We realize that's unheard of. That's just absurd, but that is truly what the numbers are. So in 2020, we all know we all can go to the OSHA website and get these numbers. In 2020, 1,008 construction workers died on the job, and that's Department of Labor. That's through OSHA. We know that those numbers do exist. The first week of May is always National National Safety Stand Down to prevent falls in construction. We all know that falls is part of the focus for falls, electrocution, struck by, caught in between. But yet we spend a week on that talking about the 35 to 40% of the people that die in construction. And roughly that translates into about 350 to 400 people a year die by falls in construction. And I'm not here to take away anything from the falls and the tragedy of the falls and the tragedy of the on-site fatalities that happen on construction sites. But in 2020, the same year, over 5,500 workers died by suicide. So it's 5 times more workers die by suicide than would die on a job site. And when I heard those numbers, I was just appalled by those numbers. I was dumbfounded. I could not believe that that actually happened. Cal talked about it, really brought it up in Denver when he said that in the state of Washington, the year before, 6 construction workers died in the state of Washington, but yet 124 in that same year died by suicide. So that's really the numbers. It's just unbelievable that that is happening like that. And like I said, that's 52 out of 100,000. And being a retired firefighter, I've looked into it a little bit deeper to see what firefighters and police officers are, first responders. And as you can see by the table or by the graphic up there, 18 out of 100,000 and 17 out of 100,000. So that's even way low compared to the construction workers. It is just amazing to me. And roughly 46,000 people die each year by suicide. Statistic I just looked up this morning trying to get a better comparison of that to other things, and 42,000 people die each year in automobile accidents. So suicide is a problem. It is a true problem in construction. It is a true problem anywhere. So what is mental health? Well, the definition of mental health is simply this. It refers to our cognitive, behavioral, and emotional well-being. It's all about how we think, feel, and behave. So it's not just the construction workers that have mental health issues. It's everybody. It's everybody out there anybody can be susceptible to a mental health issue or mental health crisis at any time in their life. It's just what triggers it. How are we wired? Contributing factors, biological genes, our brain chemistry. That's just like blonde hair and blue eyes. What did the good Lord give us? How did he wire our brains? Some of us deal better with mental health than what others do. And we also have chronic traumatic encephalopathy or traumatic brain injury. And we hear more and more about football players that after years and years playing football start developing mental health issues, some of them suicide, and some of them even murder-suicide. So mental health, it's abundant. It is out there, and it can manifest itself quickly, or it could take years and years and years to develop. Or we have family history of mental health issues. It could be crack babies that are born with problems. It could be a number of things. A gentleman by the name of Kevin Hines, he survived a jump off of the Golden Gate Bridge in the year 2000. He's only one of 34 people who have survived that jump out of about 1,700. He's also only one of a handful that can walk and talk about it. The rest of them, if they survived, are not able to talk or are not able to walk. I'm sorry. But read his book. The book is called Cracked But Not Broken, and he talks about his mental health struggles from 2000 right up until I don't remember when the book was published, 4 or 5 years ago. And there were several times when he has gone back into mental health crisis. He's had to go back into the hospital. So mental health is it's out there, and we need to address this. And unfortunately, we're not. We still have the stressors out there And some of these stressors fall right in line with the construction industry, and that's losing your job, worrying about your finances and not having enough money. We all know that construction workers uh, get laid off. If you do work in the construction industry, you understand that. And when you get laid off, did you plan for that? About 52% of Americans right now live paycheck to paycheck. So I can't tell you how many of those are construction workers, but these are things that they have to worry about. And this is the stress that they put on themselves, causing potential mental health crises, being unable to afford health care, access to health care. If you understand the union industry, they have to work so many hours a year to be able to be eligible for union health care that they pay for themselves. So these are all stressors in the construction industry, and especially in the union construction. I can't speak of non-union construction. I do know that a good friend of mine, his son was an electrician, non-union electrician, and he, in order to pay for his health insurance every month, he would work for that same contractor. They'd go wire one house on a Saturday, and he'd work basically for free, but that's what paid for his health insurance. I don't know how others do it, but these are things that we have to think about, and the stressors of being able to afford healthcare. If you're single, it's probably not a big deal, but if you have a family, can you afford it? Do you have it? These are all questions that need to be asked. And same thing with food, especially a young family. Babies at home, do I have enough money to buy food? Do I have enough money to keep the roof over their head? Experiencing violence, discrimination, or racism on job sites. This is a simple thing, diversity. Diversity on the job site. Here again, we have a diverse population out there, and it comes in all shapes and sizes. Different people want to work in construction. We have to get rid of the discrimination or the racism or the judgmental LGBTQ areas and things like that. We have to make construction sites more accommodating, as we have to make all workplaces more accommodating for everybody. And then last but not least, the stigma associated with mental health. If somebody finds out that I'm having a mental health crisis, what's that going to do for my job? Am I going to be able to keep my job? Am I going to have to get rid of my job, or am I going to lose my job? What am I going to be able to do? So these are all things that include the stress of construction and even the workplace. Nature of the work. And here again, we just talked about the layoffs and all that. This is cyclical work with regular periods of layoffs, and rehiring causes uncertainty about employment. Workplace shortages result in workers working overtime to complete projects. This combination results in what's called a pressure cooker atmosphere that can overwhelm employees. At any time, these employees could be laid off. They come and do their job. They're smart enough. They know what stage the project is in. So when am I going to get laid off? If I get laid off. Sometimes the layoff notices come around the holidays, and all they want to do is provide a nice Christmas for their family. With the labor shortage currently the way it is, we can't find construction workers. Employees are working overtime to help employers meet deadlines. And when this happens, this translates into not being able to spend time with the family. What kind of pressure does that put on? You're missing basketball games, volleyball games, football games, things like that. Entrapment. Some of these employees feel like they're entrapped because they see no other way out of being in the construction industry. Sometimes workers in the industry experience, and they call it the golden handcuff phenomenon, feeling entrapped into the one line of very stressful work because they see no other way to sustain a certain standard of living for themselves and their families. This is the only thing they are trained to do, so they can't go anywhere else to provide for their family for the money that they do make. This gets more frustrating when things happen at work, such as some type of a failure. And then there's capability of fearlessness. We all walk in, we all think very stoic attitude, very stoic culture. Um, these guys are tough guys. These are tough guys and gals. Suck it up, Buttercup. Get over it. I don't want to hear about your problems. Be a man. Toughen up, Bubba. This is the kind of things that you could possibly hear on a job site, and this contributes to the stigma of tough guy. I don't want to hear your problems. How many construction workers would you consider scaredy cats? Construction workers are looked at as tough guys or gals. They do not talk about their personal life when they're at work. Sometimes they leave home with some type of a burden, whether it's a personal, financial, or even a family situation. They can't really take phone calls at work, and it just festers. They're thinking about this at work. They're too proud to talk about their issues with their coworkers. And that's truly why the name Too Tough to Talk came about. They just will not open up about personal issues. And then we have a fragmented community, isolation, transitory or seasonal employment. They can experience a lack of belongingness and a higher level of uncertainty that adds to a sense of isolation and a lack of meaning. Are union members employees of a company, or are they just workers? Do they feel a part of that company? A lot of these workers, a lot of these union members go from company to company, many collecting several W-2s every year. So do they feel like they are part of the work family? For those of you who work in an office setting, manufacturing facility, restaurant, automobile dealership, things like that, you know who your employer is. Benefits are paid by the employer. Construction workers pay their own benefits. If they have a problem, they turn to the HR department where they work. The construction workers may not know there's an HR department. It's part of their union. They may have lockers where they put their personal items. Construction workers' lockers are their trucks. That all promotes a sense of work family. When you walk up to the locker, take your street clothes off, put a uniform on, whatever the case may be. Only about 5% of the workforce in the U.S. is construction. If you break that down and think about that, so there's 20 houses on the street, and that one house where you live, you're the only construction worker on the house or on that street. You're home 2 days in a row because it's raining like crazy and everybody else is out working. Boy, it must be nice to be home all day, all week. That's not what they want to hear. They have to provide for their family. So it is kind of a isolation thing. These guys are getting paid by their employer to work. If they don't work that day, they might get paid. They might get a vacation. They might get sick time, things like that. Union construction, and as far as I know, most construction companies do not have that. Humiliation and shame. When a humiliating job failure occurs and the employee's main source of their identity is their work, this can trigger a depression event or suicidal thoughts. Construction workers, they're a proud group. Failure is not an option. When a mistake is made at work, pride gets in the way and humiliation sets in. They take this failure personally. And deadlines are a part of the construction. It's a huge part of the construction industry. At every job meeting that these guys attend, the schedule is discussed. Think about the schools that are being remodeled. They have to be open by Labor Day or whatever the case may be when school starts. Meeting these construction deadlines is very difficult right now, and the biggest reason is because jobs are understaffed due to a shrinking workforce. The owners want their buildings completed. In fact, a lot on time. In fact, a lot of times they put a completion date on there. If that completion date is not met, monetary damages could be applied. This all puts pressure on the workforce, the overworked workforce, and they must work longer hours. There again, taking time away from their family. Materials, getting delays getting the materials because of the supply chain. And it's not a problem, or it's a problem, but it's probably not caused by the workforce. They order their stuff on time. The stuff keeps getting delayed and delayed and delayed. But yet they take responsibility because it is their building that they're building. And these guys are, like I said, a very proud group of people. Fear that admitting mental health struggles will result in an individual being passed over for promotion. Many of these people they know that being a foreman or a superintendent, they get a few bucks an hour more. But if they exhibit any type of mental health issues, they're afraid that the contractor will look at them as unstable and they could be passed over for that promotion. Exposure to physical strain or psychological trauma. We all know construction workers or construction sites can be dangerous. Employees are exposed to physical and psychological injury through their everyday work. Workers suffer through chronic pain, post-traumatic stress, or burnout that can contribute to suicide and despair. Construction is an occupation where so many people are in constant pain. This is a tough business, and it is tough on the body. Self-medicating with prescription drugs, alcohol, and even non-prescription drugs is not uncommon. Unfortunately, construction sites may have traumatic incidents happen. And when that happens, people may take that personally and think to themselves, what could I have done to stop that from happening? And truth be told, probably nothing. But like I said, they're a proud group of people and they don't want to see anything happen to anybody else out there. Culture of substance abuse. Like I said, this is tough on the body. Construction workers, they wear out quicker. You see these guys, I know of a bunch of guys that are getting joints replaced, whether it's their knees or their shoulders or things like that, hips. It is tough on them. Many of them take prescription meds just to get them through the day, and some even turn to alcohol as well as non-prescription medications to mitigate the situation. This is where some people turn to opioids. And we all know that once you get turned on to opioids, it can drive you to a mental health crisis and an attempted suicide. Construction is a safety-sensitive occupation, so drug testing is very common. What help is available for those who have a positive drug test? Is the company willing to give that individual a second chance? Or do they have help available for that individual? And the help comes in the way of EAP programs, employee assistance programs. These people need to understand that there should be an employee assistance programs available to them. And then access to lethal means. We all know that firefighters, we all know that several contractors, construction workers are hunters. They're very familiar with firearms. Although firearms only, I think it's 5% of the time people die by firearms, it is successful at like 90% of the time. But there are also means like the pills that they are either prescribed or that they buy due to the constant pain that they're in. And they're also susceptible. They have ability to climb to high places. And we all know that a lot of construction workers, they have no fear of heights. So getting to that high level and maybe taking a step off to end it is a possibility for some of these people. So these are all common risk factors, industry risk factors that the industry, a lot of people, Cal Beyer, another young lady by the name of Sally Spencer Thomas, have talked about. And you see this stuff in all kinds of articles that are written for the risks for suicide in construction. So why don't we talk about mental health in the construction site? Well, nearly 60% of the workers, they do report struggling with mental health issues, but only a third of them would communicate that struggle with the employers, and that was simply because they're embarrassed. We must remove this stigma. That's the bottom line. We've got to remove this stigma. We have to understand, we have to make people understand that it is okay to talk about mental health struggles. And we can do that through the educational opportunities for these people. A belief that the employer would not help. It is difficult for union employers to help union members with this struggle. And that's simply because they don't hold the benefits. When an employee walks away from a job site to go talk to a mental health professional at 1:30 in the afternoon, they no longer get paid for that day. They only get paid for the hours that they're actually there working. And this throws a big stumbling block into these people getting the mental health help that they need. Like I said before, are they really employees of this employer or not? Well, they are. They're going to get a paycheck that says Rudolph Libby or Mosier or Speaker or whoever. They will get a check like that or direct deposit like that. But like I said, they have no HR department to go talk to at that employer because it's all union stuff. We need to change the attitude. Yes, they are employees, but we also need to change how we're going to pay them too if we're going to give them time off to go see that. And the average construction worker works about 11 years or struggles with mental health for 11 years before they go seek help. So some common signs of suicide, depression or being sad or moody. Person has long-standing sadness and mood swings. Depression is always a major risk factor of suicide. The problem with this is we need to understand these people. In all of these, we need to understand these people. We need to get to know these people that we're working with. And here again, in the construction industry, if you're working for 7 or 8 contractors a year, how close do you get to anybody working for these contractors or with these contractors? A sudden calmness. Person becomes calm after a period of depression or moodiness. They say that they've accepted their fate and they have it all planned out. Maybe they're going to get through this week. They're going to do this on the weekend. They have a plan for their suicide. Withdrawing from others. Person that was always willing to sit down and have lunch or take breaks or chit chat in the morning. Now all of a sudden they've withdrawn from other people. They're not willing to talk to people. They just don't want to socialize. They want nothing to do with anybody. Absenteeism or presenteeism. This is one of the biggest things. Cal Bayer is really big on this. You can tell by the absenteeism, obviously, they're not showing up for work or they're simply late for work. They're 20 minutes late. They're 10 minutes late. And a month ago, 2 months ago, they were fine. They were on time all the time. They were working hard. The presenteeism, they're there, but they're just not doing their job. We know that we can get a good hour's worth of work out of that guy, 2 hours worth of work out of that guy. And now he's working so slow, it's like he's only been here for 15 minutes today. These are things that we can physically, we can see this happening and we can address this issue. I gave a talk, I talked about this over at Local 8, the NECA Electrical Apprenticeship School. And what one of the instructors that I sat and talked to about this said that he had a guy, and that's exactly what happened. He started being late, wouldn't talk a whole lot, and finally he sat down and this other gentleman, the instructor was running the work. He said, "Hey, what's the problem here?" And he said, "Well, I'm just having problems at home." The project manager found out about this. He wanted him to let him go. He's been late too often. This gentleman, the teacher, said, "No, I think you need to come and talk to him." And just that simple talk to him turned that guy completely around, because what that did was that showed him that that company cared about that guy. He ended up, after a couple of weeks, changed his personality. He still ended up getting a divorce, but he realized that there were people out there that did care about him, and his employer was one of them. Changes in personality. The funniest guy in the world comes in all the time. All of a sudden, he stops being funny. He stops talking to people. Doesn't want to talk to anybody. Just doesn't care anymore. Doesn't care about his appearance. These are all things that we can pick up if we work with these people enough. Making preparations. They start putting their personal businesses in order. Maybe what they're doing is giving away their tools or things like that. Hey, do you want to do this? Here, take this from me. I'm not going to need this anymore. Visiting friends and family, writing a will, getting their finances in order. These are all signs that maybe somebody is certainly thinking about the final step of suicide. And talking about death and dying. Off the wall, starts talking about this stuff. I actually had a friend of mine that did that. I unfortunately missed all the other signs above that. And then in about a month later, I found out that he had committed, or he died by suicide. He had taken his own life. But he did talk about that, and I just didn't pick up on it. So what can we do to help? We need to tune in. If you suspect somebody is at risk, watch for the warning signs from that individual. Ask. Do not be afraid to ask. This is the biggest thing that so many people are talking about now, is ask that person if they're contemplating suicide. It is not something that they're going to say, oh, geez, I never thought of that. Maybe I will go do that. That's not what's happening. They want you to ask them the question. They are embarrassed about it. They want you to ask, and they want you to talk to them about it. Do it in a calm and reassuring manner, non-judgmental. Tell them that there is help on the way. Or tell them that you're there to help them and that you can get help with them. Tell the individual that suicide is serious. I know that sounds so strange. Yes, indeed, it is serious, but they need to understand that actually what they say is suicides affect not only the person that died, but it'll also affect up to 134 people beyond that. And people don't understand that. They think it's just them. They think they're going down the road by themselves, and that's not the case. Connect them with the help they need and follow through with that connection. Just don't hand them a phone number and say, here, call this phone number. You need to make sure that they reach out, and you need to even make sure that they possibly get to that first or second appointment so that they can get the help that they need. Reach out to the workers so they understand it is okay to talk. Do not be afraid to ask the question. Like I said, are you considering suicide? Are you thinking about hurting yourself? There are EAPs. The unions do have employee assistance programs. Unfortunately, most of these people do not know what an EAP program is. It is a counseling service paid for by a lot of our union health plans. And all they need to know it's there. The website tootoughtotalk.com has it available on there for them to go look at. All they need to do is reach out, and there is help available through these employee assistance programs. What can companies do to promote mental health? Suicide prevention should not be a separate program. It should be incorporated into everything. Why do we worry so much about our physical health, our physical safety, but we don't worry about our mental health, our mental safety? May is Mental Health Awareness Month. September is Suicide Prevention Month. What perfect opportunities to do wonderful toolbox talks. This needs to be incorporated into every training session that we have. A little dabble do ya when it comes to Too Tough to Talk, suicide prevention, and construction. It should not be one person's responsibility. It should come from the top down, just like any other type of safety program that's available to us that we promote. It should come from the top. Leadership should understand, and the leadership should be directly involved with anything that comes regarding mental health awareness. And doing something is better than nothing. Let's talk about it. Let's get things going. Let's make sure we can keep things rolling in the right direction after today. Do it in a safe manner, creating a safe culture which team members feel safe to ask for help. Having a leader share real life experience about health, mental health, or suicide. So many people have experienced it. It may be a dark corner of their life, but if people talk about it and people understand that it happens to so many of us. Company policies can be a barrier. Make sure that they understand that there will be no termination involved or anything like that. It is safe for them to talk. And creating opportunities for managers and supervisors to get to know their teams. The more they know these people, the more they can make those judgments. Is he acting right today? Make it in a safe, respectful manner. Training. We all talk about training. OSHA wants training. Training. Incorporate this into your safety training programs. Mental and emotional health and safety should be treated with the same level of importance as any type of OSHA training or anything like that. Suicide prevention training does not just benefit employees at work, but it also benefits them at home too. Just like CPR training, once they learn about this stuff, they're not going to forget about it. They're going to be able to identify these things. Awareness, raise awareness. The more familiar the workforce is with suicide, the more they are willing to talk about it. There's a program called Mental Health First Aid. They will come into your organization and talk about this. It's an 8-hour program. And the reason I say that is because we don't know much about mental health literacy. If you ask me questions about it today, I would have trouble answering a lot of questions regarding getting deep in the woods about mental health. But I do know everything I talk about, everything I read about, I understand and I can relate to this stuff on a construction site and how construction people are. So our mental health literacy may be a little low, but there is help available out there. It's called Mental Health First Aid. They will come in and give you an 8-hour class on identifying these mental health triggers for your workers. And normalize the talk. Normalize the topic of suicide prevention. It's okay to talk about it. It really is. It benefits everyone. And like I said, talking about it at home, we're able to normalize it. It's not out of the norm to talk about it. We can educate ourselves and we can learn more about it also. And then, like I said, the EAPs decrease the risk of suicide in construction by providing and telling union members and all of your workers who their EAP is, their Employee Assistance Program, or their MAP, their Member Assistance Program. If you have a drug-free workplace program, you are required through your drug-free workplace program to have an EAP in the event that you do have somebody test positive for banned substance, that they do have the ability to go talk to this individual and get clean, get straight, so that they don't continue down the path of drugs, which obviously could lead to suicide suicide in the workplace. Just a couple of things to finish up here. Just remember, we are driven by job site safety. Like I said, OSHA, we talk about OSHA all the time. Well, don't do that. OSHA will cite us for that. Oh, that's against OSHA. That's against the law. But what do we talk about mental health? Where's our mental safety on our job sites? You know as well as I do that if our head is not in the game, where's this going to take us? Are we going to get hurt on the job site? If there's any electrical contractors out there and they know NFPA 70E, recently, I think it was a 2015 edition, they put in their Annex Q, which talks about is your head, basically, I can't quote it, but it basically talks about, is your head in the game today to be messing around with live electricity? It's all about our mental safety and our mental health on job sites. We must understand that we take family problems with us to work. We're going to be thinking about that. Are we going to be thinking about that to the point that it becomes detrimental to what we're doing on the job site? Are we still safe on that job site? So what is Too Tough to Talk? Like I said, it's a resource for union members, union employees of Northwest Ohio. Our goal is to educate those union members about the stigma of mental health in construction. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we did that so that we could raise funds to be able to get the message out, to bring speakers in, and to have sessions being able to educate people so that they do understand where, why, when, how to talk to people about suicide prevention in construction. Too Tough to Talk, that's our symbol, our whatever logo, the hard hat on the right. We do have a QR code on several things. Like I said, this is for union construction. The Too Tough to Talk program is union construction, but I'm not afraid to talk about suicide prevention in construction because I know it applies to all construction sites. My friend Cal Byer, who I met, like I said, back in 2018, one of the best people I know when he's a perfectionist. And when it comes to suicide prevention in construction, he's a phone call away from my help. Sally Spencer Thomas, I brought her up because I do want to talk a little bit about another thing that she has. She actually lost her younger brother to suicide several years ago. I would say probably 15, 20 years ago, she lost her younger brother to suicide. This has been a passion of hers. And then when her and Cal met, they really developed this into a suicide prevention in construction type thing. And her big thing is mental health cannot be fixed with duct tape. And she has what's called mantherapy.com. And I got that on a slide towards the end that I'll talk very briefly about. Just some hotlines, suicide prevention hotline, 1-800-273-8255. Your EAP program, please reach out to your employer or make sure that even your employees know that there is an employee assistance program that not only helps them, but also helps their family members. And then there's also a crisis text hotline, just text hello to 741-741. July 16th, I believe it is this year, goes into effect the 988 phone number, just like 911. It's a federal line, federal phone number 988 for suicide prevention in construction. And remember, your mental safety is just as important to me as your physical safety. So we have to keep that in mind also. Some more goodies, like I said, tootoughtotalk.com, preventconstructionsuicide.com. That is actually put on by the CIASP, CFMA, Construction Financial Managers Association. They realize, this is a national organization, they realize that suicides has a direct financial impact on companies. They developed preventsuicideconstruction.com website. That website has so much information on there. It is a great resource. It's got, I don't know, 10 or 12 toolbox talks on it. It has a program for companies to follow in order to make themselves, to improve what they do. Educational opportunities, a checklist. What should I do? How do I start to become a company that cares about the employees, and where do I begin? You have checklists on there. It's called CIASP, and I can't think of what it's called, Construction Initiative for the Alliance for Suicide Prevention or something like that. Wonderful, wonderful opportunity, wonderful program there too. CPWR used to be Center to Protect Workers' Rights. That's what it used to be called, but they have a lot of information also on it for suicide prevention and all types of goodies when it comes to construction. Toolbox talks for you construction companies. A lot of toolbox talks in there. Mantherapy.org is a fun-filled way. It's a off the cuff, kind of like a red green, if you're that old to remember red green, kind of like a red green thing, making fun of each other for therapy. It's just fun to watch. Bunch of 1-minute episodes on there, and that's all by Sally Spencer Thomas. And then finally, CFMA.org at the very bottom. So with that, I'm done. I would just like to say how important it is, I feel, in my heart and in my soul. After 34 years in the fire service, I saw a lot of people attempt suicide. I worked on a lot of people that completed the suicide event. It is heartbreaking. It is extremely heartbreaking also to those people that watched it happen. And people don't realize that when a suicide does happen, like I said, it does affect, they say, about 134 people. I think that is a gross underestimate of that. But whatever we can do as employers, I think we need to step up to the plate and do that through our EAP programs, make sure that our EAP programs, what we pay for, we're getting, and that the EAP programs also promote what they have back to you and to your employers so that they have easy access to these programs. And also, like I said, learn the signs of suicide, learn the signs of depression from your workers. And I think that's the best way to handle suicide prevention, not only in construction, but suicide prevention in the workplace. I'd like to thank everybody for listening. I'd like to thank Angie for the opportunity to reach out to all of you. Like I said, it's very important. Hoping you have a great day, and thank you for listening.
Thanks so much, Greg. Does anyone have any questions for Greg that I can ask? I mean, we have some time left here. Greg, you finished before 1:30, so.
I told you it'd be close. Like I said, it was 50 minutes the last time I did it, so.
Yeah, right there, right on the nose.
Yeah. And I got to tell you, it's not something I never in my wildest dreams thought I'd be talking about this. Never in my wildest dreams.
Sure.
But
you do very, very well. I mean, it is a great presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, well, if no one has anything else, we will give you back a little bit of your time. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you again, Greg, for presenting, and we will talk to you all soon. Be safe.
Thanks, everybody. Be safe. You're welcome, Angie. We'll talk to you soon.